Hello, here are a few things that you might find in my South African home that you might not find in the US. First off, a kettle. This is an electric kettle. This is very common to find in South Africa. Most South African homes have a kettle, and it is used multiple times per day. This is something that I did not realize was not normal in the United States, or at least everywhere I've been. Most people seem to either have some sort of boiler, or heat it in the microwave, or have potentially a stovetop kettle. And we have some of those too, but it seems to be very uncommon to find an electric kettle. Also, we just call it a kettle because that's normal. But it's very convenient and something that I haven't seen much in the US. Another thing that is very normal in my South African home, and probably not in the US, is I do not have a garbage disposal. That's not a normal thing in South Africa. I thought they were pretty weird when I first used one in the United States. I thought it was very strange. But in the movies, they always seem so dangerous. And so I was a bit nervous to use it. But after understanding how it works and why they're there, then it's actually pretty cool. Another thing that is very normal in my South African home, and is maybe not very normal in at least all of the places I have been in the US, are burglar bars. This is very normal in South Africa. Almost every home will have burglar bars in at least some of the windows, probably the first floor, sometimes the second floor. And yeah, unfortunately crime is a little bit of a problem in a lot of areas, and so it's just safer. And a lot of homes also will have a burglar alarm or security system of some sort, or a dog. Another thing that is pretty normal in my South African home and not in the US is a washing line. I thought this was normal. So obviously we wash our clothes in the washing machine, and some homes will have a dryer, or a tumble dryer as we usually call it. But if you don't, or even just in general to save electricity, we will hang them outside. Most of the year they dry pretty well. You can dry multiple loads per day. Obviously, occasionally if there's rain or really high humidity or just not great weather for drying, then you will either then put it on a clothes horse like this inside, or then you will use your dryer. Some people, like I don't even have a dryer, so I have to always figure out how to dry my clothes on things such as a clothes horse. And this is something that seems to be very uncommon in the US. Most houses, or the dorm that I stayed in, all had dryers, and you just move it from the washing machine to the dryer and then go hang your clothes up or pack them away. And another thing that's pretty normal in South Africa and not in the US is most houses do not have any sort of central heating. I know this probably depends a lot on where you live, but for example, in the Northeast, where I've been the most in the US, most houses seem to have some sort of central heating, and this is not very common in South Africa. Some places will have underfloor heating, but that's quite unusual. Or maybe you will have some heaters built into the wall, but this is more of an electrical heater. It's not usually powered by natural gas, and not many houses actually have this. Most places, when it gets really cold, you will have a little heater or just layer up a lot. Our houses are strangely not really built for the cold. Obviously, South Africa, you think it doesn't get that cold. Most places it doesn't. Depends a lot on where you live. There are some places that do have fireplaces, and especially if you live somewhere with high altitude, it can get pretty cold. Where I live, it doesn't get that cold, but it does get fairly cold. And interestingly enough, because our houses aren't really built for the cold, we don't have double glazed windows, we don't usually have central heating, there's not much that tries to keep the heat in because a lot of the time it's hot. And because of that, it can get very cold. And interestingly, we had a tenant from Canada who stayed with us at some stage, and she found it really difficult because even though she comes from Canada where it's freezing and it never gets as cold where I live, however, because it's cold in the house and almost as cold in the house as it is outside, and even though outside isn't that cold, she struggled having to live in the cold. And I think that's something that was surprising when I was in the Northeast in the snow and it was very, very cold. But it actually almost seemed easier because inside was always warm. You just had to dress up really warm when you went out. and I had clothing there that was more appropriate for the freezing cold. But as soon as you got inside, take off your jackets, take off your beanies, and you were warm. So that's different. Well, I think that is all for now. If I think of any more things, I will keep you updated. But I hope that this was a fun look into what is a little bit different in South Africa compared to the United States.